On the profile interview segment this week, I will be speaking with Comrade Josiah Biobolemoye, the president of the Medical and Health Workers Union. He was re-elected to serve the union for the next 4 years. He tells me his plans for the union and what his expectations are from the federal government. Join me. It's good to have you on the program.
It's a pleasure to have you again.
Now, a lot has happened in the sector in the last 4 years. I would like you to share your experience and in summary tell us what you've been able to achieve and what some of your challenges or the struggle that you're still fighting for are.
Well, talking about experience is a lot, negative, positive, lots. But talking about achievements and challenges, just like I said, negative, positive, they also build into the fray of the experience that I will share. If you ask me to share a specific experience, I would want to say the most harrowing experience that I've seen in the last 4 years is the high level of insincerity, the high level of dishonesty of the Federal Ministry of Health, coupled with the high interest in promoting corruption by the Federal Ministry of Health. That is what I can tell you. Whereas, another area I can tell you about is, whereas the Federal Ministry of Health is fixed on creating a turbulent environment in the health system without minding the negative impact on the Nigerian people, knowing fully well that it is only the public health institutions that can give affordable health to the Nigerian poor people. They do not mind the consequences, but all they want is deliberately starve institutions, the health institutions, necessary funds, promote corruption by punishing people who blow the whistles, patriotic health workers, patriotic Nigerians, patriotic members of my own organization that wants to help the government fight corruption in the health system. They suppress them, they punish them. And I think these are the things I would say are things that I've experienced. If you talk about positivity, maybe, it should be safe for me to say none, because nothing has been given to us willingly. When you see a situation where people in the same industry, there are some professionals who make the medical practitioners who make just less than 5% overall. Talking about less than 5% overall is at the federal level, state level, and local level. They make less than 5% of the healthcare deliverers. But they get everything, whether legitimate or illegitimate. They get it. The deceit and lies to Nigerians is one of the big things that I experienced over these 4 years from the Federal Ministry of Health. And I just hope that the abnormality, which is appointing people of one profession in a multi-dimensional industry to man the top ruling class of that ministry, that all-important ministry, I think is an experience I wouldn't want to see in the next 4 years. And I pray Mr. President will correct himself by not doing that.
Okay, looking at the current situation we find ourselves, looking at the fact that between the workers and the managers of the health workers, it's not been so much of an harmonious relationship, if there's any word like that. Moving forward, what are your expectations in terms of how the healthcare sector in Nigeria should be managed to ensure that there's a better working relationship between health workers and its employers?
Thank you. I used a word that for some time was very key to the results that we were turning out in the health sector. Prior to 1985, there was that word, harmony. Harmony existed amongst the health workers because there was fair treatment. And why was there fair treatment? Because hospitals were headed by hospital administrators, hospital secretaries, and in some cases, hospital governors, who are non-health professionals. But they are professionals in their own right as administrators, hospital administrators and all that. So they were able to stand neutral to harness the various specialties and professional callings, to use them, mold them together for a purpose. And what is that? Patience. A patient-centered purpose. That's why we were getting the results. That's why prior to 1985, our hospitals, some of our hospitals were rated among the 5 best hospitals in the Commonwealth. That's why our hospitals were receiving patients from outside Nigeria. The tourism was inwards, unlike today that it is outwards. So you really got it right. Harmony. Harmony. Certainly, bias is so high in the health system today, compounded by the, I believe, ill-informed appointment made by the president and commander-in-chief for the last 4 years. Well, like I told you, the Minister of Health was medical doctor, Minister of State, medical doctor, and then Permanent Secretary was also a medical doctor until after a while that the Permanent Secretary was removed. But again, the minister, importantly again, the Minister of Labor was also a medical doctor. So that compounded the whole thing more. Because in the past, where there is so much quarrel within the health system between the managers and the managed, when the matter is taken to the Federal Ministry of Labor, there is a neutral arbiter there. Therefore, he listens just like the hospital administrators would have done. He listens there and then gets things right. So we were having better relationship. Sour relationship within, but corrected sometimes outside.
But many people believe that the health workers are actually competing with the medical doctor. And I know that the Medical and Health Workers Union and JOASU has actually debunked this many times. And they have often said that it is about equity and not equality. What's your take on this?
We have never talked about equality. We have always talked about equity, fairness. That's our watchwords. We've not said, look, pay us like a doctor. Let me repeat myself. A doctor, a first degree holding doctor comes out. After 8 years, that is 6 years academics, 1 year as house officer, then 1 year as NYSC, 8 years. He's placed on grade level 12. Grade level 12. We've not said we should be placed on grade level 12. Some of us are also trained for 8 years, like the optometrist. Trained for 8 years. The lab scientist, the pharmacist, okay, trained for 7 years. Today, even the nurses, trained for 7 years. Okay, 5 years academics, 1 year internship, and 1 year NYC. But because of 1 year difference, okay, the doctor is placed on grade level 12, and the highest, even the optometrist who is trained for 8 years like the doctors, is placed on grade level 10, which is a 3 years difference. So the doctor gets 3 years benefit for a 1 year difference in training period. He is placed on 12, and the nurse is placed on 8. That is 9 years difference. 9 years difference for a training period differential of 1 year, of 2 years.
So what should your members be expecting from you in the next few years?
Well, in the next few years, first and foremost, I feel that the president will not allow himself to make that mistake again. So he would not appoint a minister as a doctor, and then a minister of state as a doctor. Certainly, I think if he wants harmony in the health system, he should bring in the others also as one of the ministers. And the gravest thing that he would do, if he does, that will no longer allow peace in the health system again, is if he makes the mistake of appointing a medical doctor as Minister of Labor. Because professions that have ego and self-centeredness, should not be put in a ministry, to administer a ministry where you need multiple, interests, where you have multiple interests. That should not be done. And I want to give an example to Mr. President straight today. If he wants to know, if people have claimed that unless you are a medical personnel or you're a professional, you shouldn't be a minister, and if he does that, it will wreck the health system, that is a blatant lie. I want to tell you this. Since 1985, after headship of hospitals was taken away from hospital administrators and doctors became heads of hospitals, the indices have been southward. They've been nosediving until the only time they stabilized and started facing up again, traveling north, was when Professor Eitayo Lambo was appointed Minister of Health. Eitayo Lambo was never, or is never, a medical doctor. But his time was the most peaceful health era and harmonious time. After him, we started nosediving again. And I want to give you another example at the state level. In Bayelsa State, the most respected Commissioner of Health to this day, the most successful Commissioner of Health to this day, the Commissioner of Health that harmonized the health workers to this day is Bishop Degi Eremie. Recently, he was elected a senator. Yeah. If the president wants to know, I think they are the same party, so he can even call him and then affirm what I'm saying or confirm what I'm saying. Bishop Eremie is a non-health personnel, but he became commissioner. At that time, doctors said, hell will fall. When the acting governor then, Goodluck Jonathan was the acting governor and they appointed him, they said hell will fall. Then I was a union leader at the state level and I said, that hell will not fall. Because it is not, there is no law that bars the governor from appointing a non-health personnel as a commissioner of health.
And that's all we can take on today's edition of the program. Join us next week for a fresh edition of the show. I am Sharon Ijason. Thanks for watching, and remember, labor creates wealth.